Welcome everyone. This is the introduction to lesson 3 of the Digital Advocacy Center's training fundamentals. Let's redo it, hold
on. Oh no, you're gonna have to start it again.
But you know what, I can just edit it, so let me, hold on.
Okay, start from now.
Okay, ready? Welcome everyone. This is the Digital Advocacy Center's Fundamentals of Digital Advocacy Training Intro to Lesson 3. We're going to be talking today all about campaign execution and then monitoring and evaluation. I'm Jesse Danzig, joined by my colleague Deepanita Das. And so there's a lot of content here in Lesson 3. We've got 5 modules. The first 3, which are really geared toward measurement and how do you set up indicators of success, and then within each of the Facebook and Twitter platforms, pull out data to measure how you're doing and see if your campaign is on track. And then from there, we dig into the heart of digital advocacy campaigns and examples of how to use digital in supporting policy passage, as well as policy implementation for modules 11 and 12.
So the combined goals of these modules are as follows. Hopefully after the end of the training, you should have a strong understanding of first how to set up monthly metrics. This is very important because the more you measure, the better you can tell how well you're doing. Number 2 and 3, we'd learn about how to use Facebook Insights, which is Facebook's internal measuring system, and how to use Twitter Analytics, which is Twitter's internal measuring system. Number 4, we learn about how online tools can power your offline tactics. And number 5, what the implementation framework for tobacco control policies are when it comes to digital campaigning. So the question here is, why should we bother measuring at all? First and foremost, data provides us discipline, which means that the more you measure, the more you have a structured idea of how well or badly your strategy is performing overall. That allows for quick edits, which is very important to a successful campaign. Second, it proves what works and what doesn't. And in that, you can see what is working and what isn't working in a truly dispassionate manner, because data in this case is not, it leaves little room for debate. Last, it gives you the freedom to test, fail, and restart. This is again very, very important. In any campaign, you are testing out multiple messages, multiple platforms, multiple images. And every time you do that, you are measuring which one is doing well, and you are testing it out with your audience. So measurement allows you to stay nimble. So measurement for us falls into 2 categories. First, we measure capacity, and then we measure mobilization. So capacity, as the name suggests, is very simply the size and reach of your movement. For Twitter, that would be the number of followers. For Facebook, that would be number of followers plus perhaps the reach of each of your posts. Mobilization metrics are a little more interesting. The mobilization metrics measures activity completed to influence a campaign objective. For example, you are running a campaign where you need to meet a certain number of people to reach out to a decision maker, and you're doing it on Twitter. So a mobilization metric in that case would be how many tweets have been generated directly targeting your decision maker.
And what's great about Facebook and Twitter is that the data is all provided within the platform. We try to keep it simple. As Dee mentioned, we've got these 2 frameworks of mobilization versus capacity metrics. And then within the channels themselves, we have a lot of data at our fingertips through Facebook Insights first at understanding how the campaign is going. And they provide more data than you need, and we try to simplify that to these 4 questions for Facebook. First, is your following growing? Are you reaching more people? and are you engaging the right audience? We have measurements of how many followers and how that's going and what the rate of followership is. Then second, how are people engaging with your content? So as more and more people are following and seeing that content, what are they doing with it? Is the engagement positive? Is it negative? Are you getting a lot of likes, comments, and shares? Are you getting people unfollowing your campaign? What's going on once you're putting content out there? And then the second two questions, 3 and 4, of who and when are these people visiting your page? Meaning, what are the demographics? Where do they live? What is their age, gender? A lot of that information is available to you directly through Facebook Insights. And then understanding the timing. A lot of people are surprised to know when their pages are most active. It's generally not when you think it is. So looking at that really helps you craft when you're scheduling posts and when is the most important time for you to have new content for your followers to be engaging with. Twitter Analytics provides a lot of the same information in terms of growth of the followership and the engagement metrics. A little bit more difficult to pull out the demographic and who data, but we still do have some activity there. And then another piece on Twitter is, who are your most influential followers? Who are the people that have a lot of followers themselves on Twitter that if they retweeted something, their thousands of followers would be able to see it as well? And how do you start to engage those social influencers specifically? So again, pulling out this data so that we can get real conclusions that have impact on how we are operating the channels day to day. And then, you know, to Dee's point about freedom to test and fail is, what if it's not working? Every campaign is going to hit a flat spell. Your campaign's not going to be 100% successful all the time. And we want to give you a framework to deal with that. And 6 months to a year in, you'll start to have benchmarks of what you expect to be happening. And if things aren't going well, a framework of looking at two different questions of, are we just not executing? Are we not hitting our goals, but we have a solid strategy? And asking if there's a resource issue or an advertising budget issue of what's going on there. Or is our strategy wrong? Did we hit our petition numbers? Did we engage the people we said we would, but we're still not really seeing policy impact? Revisiting the strategy component. And so again, all campaigns go through this reevaluation method, and it's something we want to help you walk through as well. Dee, I think you're on mute.
The ladder of engagement studies the mobilization of your supporters from online to offline. At the very bottom of the ladder are simple actions such as liking, sharing, and following you on social media, or signing an online petition. And at the very top is an offline activity such as organizing an activity on behalf of your campaign. The ladder of engagement applies both to your larger public audience as well as to a target group of decision makers. And you can work them from taking a simple action like signing a petition all the way up to organizing an activity and effectively becoming an evangelist for your campaign. Let's talk for a moment about what you need to do before you start a petition online. Now, starting a petition, as illustrated by the ladder of engagement, is one of the first two steps of your campaign. So the first thing you need to see is, are you petition ready? The goal of your petition, much like the goal of your campaign, needs to be specific and achievable. And you can ensure that it is by using the SMART goal framework as defined in Module 1. Number 2, we need to be very clear about which influencers and decision makers we are targeting. And this is important because targeting the wrong decision maker, even if you reach many thousands of people, will have no effect. Example, in this case, if we have a petition on tobacco taxation in India, a great target would be Arun Jaitley, who is the finance minister of India. Last, how will your petition make an impact? Can you use your petition to get a meeting or start a conversation? Or can you use your petition to illustrate public support for your campaign? Example here is if 300,000 people sign a petition for smoke-free schools and you present it to the health minister on the steps of the parliament at a press conference and ask that they discuss your recommendations with your advocates, the pressure on your targeted decision maker is huge. So your petition in this case is incredibly impactful.
Great. So just in the same way that Dee mentioned, you really want to have a framework and understanding of how these digital tools can support your policy passage objectives. We have a similar approach to policy implementation. And so looking at once effective regulations have been adopted and passed into law, we have this cycle of educate, enforce, and assess, where digital can play a role in each of these three areas. And so the final module in this lesson, much like the previous module, will go through specific tactics and ideas in this framework of broad-based public education of new laws, which is, effective social media content and engagement, enforcement of the laws. How can the public or key volunteers use crowdsourcing to report violations? How can you do storytelling of high-profile successes, or calling out visible areas of non-compliance? And then assessment, so looking at the status of enforcement and starting to draw conclusions of how's it going? Are people following the smoke-free law? Are restaurants really providing support in creating these smoke-free environments or not? And then what are the actions that people can take to pressure or support government to boost that compliance? This can be positive enforcement and reinforcement in a thank you campaign, or negative enforcement that can look a lot like the calls to action that occurred in the policy passage process component. Great, so thank you very much. We're really excited at the completion of lesson 3. Your campaigns will really be up and running and with full momentum, and we look forward to supporting you as that happens. Thanks again.
Thank you.